Hi, Pete Vanderpool here. Forever Santa. Yeah, that's me. Yes, Santa. When we first started this Forever Santa, we had in mind working with adults who were trying to work with kids so that the kids would flourish. Well, I woke up one morning and thought, that's not what Santa does. Santa brings presents. Well, I've been noodling that around. I came to the realization that Santa does a lot of things. So let's go through this list of things. I'm looking at it, it's written down in front of me, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that I cover all the points. Because you see, we're going to change direction just a little bit. It'll still be helpful for parents, but I'm not specifically looking for great tips so that you can be doing things to help kids flourish. The first thing that Santa does in this list is he observes trends. For example, third graders didn't used to believe in Santa Claus, but they weren't taking any chances. That's moved down now to kindergarten. How do I know that? Last year, we went to a local school in the kindergarten class. I sat in a chair. The kids came over one at a time. They told me what they wanted. Everything was going fine as far as I knew. We left with the principal of the school, and when we got in a place where there were no kids, she says, you know, over 50% of those kids don't believe in Santa Claus. They don't believe, but they're not taking any chances. Another thing that Santa does, he listens. Listening is a skill. It's something that I have studied that. Matter of fact, I was trained by a company up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They called their program Befrienders. We had 3 people from our church go up there and spend a long weekend getting trained. They came back to our church, and it took them about 6 months to get us to understand what listening is all about. So I take that onto the green chair, and I listen. I can remember, I've told you this story, I think, but I'm going to tell you again because it really fits into what I'm trying to get across. A little girl came over. You could tell she was older than her years. There was just something about her. Dad came along too, and Dad got down right in front of me, right there, down on his haunches. I thought, this is weird. She jumped up on my lap, and we did the usual patter. And finally, I said, what do you want for Christmas? She says, I want a Barbie doll. And I said, oh, boy, there's about 100 different kinds of Barbie. Which one do you want? She says, I want the one that looks like an angel. Well, as luck would have it, I had just been down to Kmart that morning, and I had seen this doll. Big box like this, gossamer wings, white dress. Oh, it was beautiful. Typical Barbie, beautiful. So I said to her, boy, if you get that, you're going to have a lot of fun, aren't you? Yeah. I says, is there anything else that you'd like to have? She says, yeah. I says, what? She says, I want a baby doll. I says, boy, there's over 200 kinds of baby dolls. Which one do you want? I want the one where you feed it and then you have to change its diaper. Oh, okay. Boy, if you get those 2 things, you're going to have a lot of fun, aren't you? Yeah. Is there anything else that you want? What? A mom. I said, you know, there's some things that Santa can't do. Can I give you a hug? Oh, boy, did she hold on. Wow. And we finally broke, and I said, I'll do what best I can do. Well, she hopped down. Dad got up, and they walked away, and I heard her say, Daddy, that's the best Santa Claus I ever met. Listening, watching her expression, but stop and think about what she wanted. She wanted an angel. She wanted something she could take care of. Dad was right there. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that her mom had just died. Dad was there in case the interview went south. But off she went. He encourages. A lot of the things that I encourage come under the category of soft skills. Being polite, being nice to people, all of those things that we adults take for granted that kids don't necessarily know about. And if I get a chance to, well, you know, you really should, and I get the kid listening and they know what I'm saying. So I get to teach soft skills. I also suggest positive things for them to do, challenges maybe. Every once in a while, I get a little one that's got a passy in her mouth. Very reluctantly, they pull it out and say, "Here's Santa." And they go, "Oh, you're going to give up your passy?" "Okay, I'll take it." I put it behind me, and as soon as they leave, I pass it back to mom or grandma, just in case. But there's a challenge for a kid to give up a passy. If I have a kid with a long list, I say, "Do you have things that you don't play with anymore, but they're still good?" And they say, "Yeah." I say, "Well, look, clean them up, take them to the fire station. They're not going to burn it. The whole idea is that the firemen know the neighborhood, and they know some kids that don't have any presents. And when you take your things to them, they will deliver them to kids that you don't have any idea where the toys are going. But you feel happy because you gave to something that was worthwhile, and that something that was worthwhile gave to make another child in the neighborhood happy." So, positive challenges for kids. He shows love. I've had several experiences with autistic children. And the one that I remember the most, I was down at Northgate one year. Discovery Museum was at Northgate at the time, and they had just taken some of the kids from city schools over there, through 275 of them. They were running late, so they ran them through Santa. They gave me an 8.5 by 11 sheet. "Hi, Santa, dear Santa, my name is blah, blah, blah. I want blah, 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 blah," 3 things. And about all the time they had was to give me that. I'd read it really quick. I'd say, "I'll do the best I can, okay?" Off they'd go. Well, the group was gone, and oh, here comes another little group. This group was only about 12. Teacher was behind them. The kids had that same sheet, but there was no pressure apparently, so one would jump up and they'd give me the paper, and I'd read the paper and I'd say, "Oh boy, you're going to have fun with this, right?" "Yeah." Nice conversation with all 12 of them. Off they went. Teacher came over. She says, "Do you realize every one of them was autistic?" I said, "No." Somehow or other, that was not a part of the relationship between Santa and each one of those 12 kids. I've had other relationships like that, and it's just, in my mind, it's just showing love. And when you show love, it comes back. He displays patience. I hesitate to bring this one up, because you see, it really comes into play when I have a large family. Now, I've been doing this thing for 34 years. This will be my 35th year as a mall Santa. I think I know how to put people around. I can put them on the arms of the chair, back of the chair, on the floor in front, and here's Santa Claus in the middle of a family. One of the adults says, "Now I want John over here, I want Mary over here, and I want Sue down there, and Bill, you get back there." I just sit there, perfect patience. And after it's all over, one of my elves will always come over and said, "That really put you off, didn't it?" Because they've got a line, and they had to take the camera off the stand and move back in order to get the whole line. They'd have just left me alone. It'd been a beautiful picture. Anyway, patience. I didn't say anything, but my elves knew what was going on up here. And then there's history. Santa Claus gets bad rap. Oh, you're commercial. Yeah, just about presents and stuff. Well, yeah, but do you know that Santa Claus is actually Christian? And I go through the whole history from Nicholas in about the year 300 in Turkey. That's really a country, Turkey. And what his reputation was getting things for children, making sure children had what they needed. And it came down from there to, well, 1931, when Coca-Cola adopted Santa Claus, dressed him up in red and white, and he had the paws that refreshes. Some of you old-timers will remember that. But the whole idea of that is that Santa's origins are Christian. They start way, way back. So I try to say yes, but when you're looking at Santa Claus, don't think about all of that sort of stuff. Santa Claus is actually a symbol of the season, the caring, the sharing, the loving, and the giving. And if you look at Santa that way, you'll have a much better Christmas. And so there I am, forever Santa, but I love it.